Good afternoon, everyone. This is Attorney Stephen Sabre. You're listening to a Law Talk on 1480 WSAR. We do this show every Tuesday from 1 to 2 p.m., and it's your opportunity to call in with any law-related questions. Our call-in number 508-673-1480. And before the break, we were talking about one of the, very contentious case that's been in the news for a long time. There have been riots and everything else out in Ferguson, Missouri, where a unarmed African-American 18-year-old boy was shot by a police officer, and there's a grand jury that's been convened for the last 3 months to decide what charges, if any, ought to be brought against the police officer. And of course, we don't have all the details, and we don't know everything that we don't know most of the details that were presented to the grand jury, but things, as I mentioned earlier, this grand jury is they're doing this a little differently. That is, the prosecutors, and they're putting really the burden on the grand jury to decide the charges. And so it looks like that these are kind of the potentials. One would be the police officer could be charged with second-degree murder if the grand jurors find probable cause to believe that he knowingly caused the death of another person. And that, of course, is probably the most serious charge that could be brought against him, and that has a potential prison term of 10 to 30 years. Grand jury could also find that there was probable cause to charge this police officer with voluntary manslaughter. And that's a little bit different in the sense that it's causing a death under the influence of sudden passion arising from adequate cause. And that's a little bit lesser charge, and it carries a 5 to 15 year prison sentence. Grand jurors could also say that there's probable cause to charge the police officer with involuntary manslaughter if they, in Missouri, there's degrees. So involuntary manslaughter in the first degree, which would mean that the police officer or the grand jury believes that there's probable cause to believe that the police officer recklessly caused the death. And that penalty in that case could not exceed 7 years. And then the last alternative would be involuntary manslaughter in the second degree, which is acting with criminal negligence to cause a death. And the penalty there cannot exceed 4 years. So those are kind of the options for charges, but it's not that simple, because you have this issue of self-defense in this particular case, and that's one of the biggest issues, as I understand this case, whether this officer was justified by self-defense, and did the officer have the right to use deadly force, because it is legal in Missouri to use deadly force when an officer reasonably believes that a person may otherwise endanger life or inflict serious physical injury unless arrested without delay. So, I mean, that's going to be something that the grand jurors are going to have to consider as well. And this whole business of reasonably believe is, I would think, the reason why the police officer decided, the potential defendant police officer decided to actually testify before the grand jury, which would not be the usual thing that a potential defendant would do, because you wouldn't want to commit to a story until you had to, or to a set of facts until you had to. And then you have, in addition, in this case, general sort of self-defense claim, which says that someone can use deadly force when he or she reasonably believes it's necessary to prevent death or serious injury. So that's really what it's going to come down to, and I don't think anybody really knows exactly what a grand jury is going to do out in Missouri. I think that they probably, there's going to be, the governor's already called out the National Guard, anticipating a decision and anticipating rioting. So certainly a serious matter, and it'll be interesting to see what develops as well. So our number is 508-673-1480. All right, we're just about at the end of our hour. Let me tell you about how to get in touch with me at the office, type of work we do, and our location. The phone number to reach me at the office, 508-674-0890. Again, 508-674-0890. We're located at 1026 County Street in Somerset. Mostly what I do is serious personal injury cases, workers' compensation, and criminal defense. But every Tuesday, I'm here to answer your questions on Law Talk. My name is Attorney Stephen Saber. You've been listening to Law Talk on 1480 WSAR.
Perfect.